It's very difficult to follow from these outstanding presentations, being the last speaker. I was deeply involved in a conference we had last week on the implications of the global meltdown for the financial sector in the Caribbean. And at that conference, the concern was that there are tremendous economic difficulties that are likely to spill off from the global recession. And as a result, there was concern about the stability of the financial sector in the Caribbean. Well, we discussed it. And one of the things we could not escape from is the fact that foreign exchange earnings is the key for survival of the various Caribbean economies. And the foreign exchange earnings themselves were under threat. And when that happens, then one has to be concerned. The threat that emerges really is with respect to the external current account earnings and the external capital account earnings. And what we have seen really is that we now are suffering what I call a double whammy effect, if you're familiar with that word, whammy. But what really is happening here is that the external current accounts of the Caribbean has actually reduced substantially. Most countries, however, when they suffer external current account deficits, rely on the external capital accounts to help to cushion the effects of the depressed current account earnings. When we look at the data for last year, and our center recently finished its report for the economic performance of the Caribbean economies in 2008, what has happened really is that the external capital account could not cushion the downturn in external current accounts. So that what we have really is deficits happening in the external current account and insufficient inflows of external capital to cushion the effect of the external current accounts. So that has been a serious problem that has affected us. Nevertheless, the Caribbean economies has done well in terms of the fact that most of them have been able to realize positive economic growth, but reduced economic growth. However, 3 countries are actually showing negative economic growth already, and that is the Bahamas, Jamaica, and there's another country somewhere here I forgot to put in my note. But they have actually been the ones suffering the negative economic growth. But others have been able to have growth, but under 2% in most cases. Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname would be exceptions because Trinidad and Tobago realized growth of over 3%, and Suriname over 6%. So they have done remarkably well. Now, in terms of the reserves, the countries have actually, the reserves have not fallen away. External reserves have not fallen away. But what has happened really is that most of the countries have been unable to show reserves of 3 months or over. The benchmark used in the Caribbean is reserves of under 3 months. That's 3 months import cover. And most of the countries have not been able to do that, except Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname again. They have been able to show reserves, and very high reserves as well, of 9%, of 9 months import cover, sorry, and Suriname even above that. So the Caribbean economies are feeling the pinch, and one would have asked, well, are these economies able to at least use external financing by borrowing and so on. The difficulty here really is that some countries are already highly indebted. You have, for example, Jamaica. Well, Belize is the most highly indebted of the countries in the Caribbean, with debt measuring 74.8% of GDP. And the ECCU, that's the Eastern Caribbean countries, they have a debt to GDP ratio of 46%. These countries are really feeling the effects of the recession because they have very little policy room to wiggle out of the current situation because the debt is very high. Now, the other problem that has really confronted us, and some of the speakers spoke about it before, is that the economic paradigms that we have been forced to implement, and some of it by way of conditionalities, have actually been working against us. And in fact, some of the weaknesses of these paradigms are showing up now.